When designing our title sequence, our main goal was to ensure that our final product conformed to the cinematography, sound, editing and mise-en-scène, the full micro aspects of an existing product within our genre, high-style film featuring con artists. Using inspiration was key in terms of making sure we appealed to these four aspects, and by looking at films such as Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and even the television show Hustle, we were able to analyse what the producers behind these media projects did and why. First of all, the music used within our title sequence, developed by a close friend of ours, appealed to what you would expect to see within our genre of film because it was played on guitar with vocals from the guitarist, and the simplistic yet slightly funky vibe to the music gave our title sequence a somewhat cool feel to it, which we were pleased with. When looking at the little dialogue present within our opening sequence, we made certain that the lines we chose were sharp, snappy, and referred to a mysterious sense of criminality. However, greater coordination between the roles of the con artist, shown through increased amounts of dialogue, could have made our opening sequence more effective in terms of conforming to the connotations of our chosen genre. Finally, in terms of sound, our group predominantly used non-diegetic sound in the form of our background music. However, the diegetic sound was there in terms of dialogue and wind. In some scenes, this wind overpowered what was being said, whilst the music was quietened to allow the audience to focus on the dialogue, and this was due to audio issues. In terms of cinematography used in our title sequence, we used a variety and broad range of shots, as seen in the media products that inspired us, and these shots consisted of close-ups, extreme close-ups, mid-shots, long shots, establishing shots, following shots, tracking shots, POV shots, and aerial shots. And all of these shots allowed us to create this impression of suspicion and criminal activity. Although almost every shot was steady and contained no mistakes, looking back, there was the odd shot that we could have reshot to improve our cinematography as a whole and reinforce the professionalism of our title sequence, like existing title sequences for films out there. The mise-en-scène in our opening sequence was very conventional to existing opening sequences in terms of costume in our genre. As we as con artists were all dressed in smart business attire, and this worked especially well because as our title sequence was set in Canary Wharf, we blended in extremely well with the environment. And this is similar to Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels in that the main group of con artists in the film are dressed as typical Londoners and do not stand out as even if this wasn't their hometown, and they were dressed incredibly smart in this instance. This would make them draw unwanted attention to them, which they wouldn't have wanted. The setting we chose also worked very well for us as a group, and this was because even with a small team of actors like we had the entirety of people in Canary Wharf that day aiding us in terms of background acting, and the fact that they had no idea they were being filmed ensured for very realistic actions and movements, like you would expect to see in a real setting like this. The actions of our characters remained very casual throughout and showed little emotion, and this was to reinforce the fact that these con artists are just typical commuters heading up to Canary Wharf. Finally, in terms of props and lighting, we had little props in our film, even though we planned to have an envelope with money in it and a fake custom-made ID badge. And this was purely due to time being an obstacle in production of our title sequence, a problem which most existing opening sequences we have looked at, such as Hustle, did not face. Finally, in terms of editing in our title sequence, the pace and timing of each of the shots were a crucial part to having connotations to our genre. An example of this used within our media piece was the scene in which Jade, Ollie and I are all walking out of the elevator near Canary Wharf Station, and being inspired by many of Quentin Tarantino's films such as Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained, we incorporated zoom-in and freeze frames with close-ups to introduce the names and various aliases of each of our characters.